Hi, Hashtag Impact listeners. I am Regina Larco, founder of Hashtag Impact and one of your Season 5 hosts. I am so much looking forward to our upcoming Season 5 that will launch in winter 2020. Together with my 4 brilliant co-hosts based across the globe, Hashtag Impact Season 5 will address the Sustainable Development Goals. I will bring you encouraging impact stories from Hong Kong. A former Hashtag Impact guest that really inspired me in how she tackles the Sustainable Development Goals is Dr. Christina Dean, founder of the environmental NGO Redress, that is working to reduce waste in the fashion industry. Born out of Redress, Christina also founded the R Collective, a social impact upcycled fashion brand. Sustainable Development Goal 12 focuses on ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns. The Redress team has been tirelessly tackling this goal since more than a decade. This conversation with Christina first aired on Hashtag Impact in April 2017. It was the very first Hashtag Impact podcast recording in front of a live audience, and it left a mark on everyone that was in that room with us that day. And more so, it also made a huge impact on the listeners that got to hear Christina's story on our channel as well. Christina made us all rethink how we look at fashion and what we can all do to take action towards consuming more sustainably. Since we first recorded, a lot has happened for Redress. Today, their Redress Design Award, formerly known as Eco-Chic Design Award, is the world's largest sustainable fashion design competition. Their award-winning documentary, Frontline Fashion, is in its 4th season, and their impact has grown exponentially. As we are curating our stories for upcoming Hashtag Impact Season 5, our team went back into our archives to bring you Christina's empowering story. We'd love for you to join us for Season 5 as well. So find more information on how you can share your story and partner with us for Season 5 at hashtagimpact.com/Season 5. Now, sit back and enjoy one of our all-time favorite Hashtag Impact classics. Welcome, Christina. So now we're gonna set that up. I'm gonna get a bit more comfy here. Here it is.
I think I might have the questions here. Is this your notepad?
This is my notepad.
Okay, here you go. Yeah, I might sort of take a sneak peek at the questions.
Christina, how should I introduce you? I'm not even sure. Where should I start? Of course, we have Fashion Revolution Week, so that is a great opportunity to talk about the issues you care about deeply. You founded Redress in 2007. Congratulations to a decade of meaningful work, making the fashion industry even more fun because it's more sustainable, thanks to you. But tell us a bit about your vision and mission for Redress.
Okay, well, it's the vision and mission for Redress is to really prove that sustainable fashion can be a mainstream solution and to be integrated in the fashion industry. That's kind of like a little bit of a corporate vision. It sounds a bit boring, but the real vision that's in the heart is really to prove that fashion can be a force for good. You know, the fashion industry is enormous. I think if you squashed all of the income into a country's GDP, the revenue of the fashion industry is actually the 5th biggest GDP globally. It's ahead of India and it's ahead of Italy. Like, that is a mega industry, and it's obviously a very important industry if you look at the finances. It's also a really important industry if you look at the creativity and what it means to us as human beings. And so I think that if we could only find that magic solution of creating it as what I love, this force for good, we can help the economy, we can help the people who are making it, and hopefully we can do it in a way that's not going to absolutely damage the environment. So in my heart, I want fashion to be a force for good.
Yes. And that, there was something that must have happened around like 10 years ago, because your career path took a total turn. I have a good friend of mine here who just flew in from Thailand, I cannot believe it, who is a doctor, studied medicine. So she loves fashion actually. May I bring that up, Marlene? She loves fashion, and when I told her about Christina Dean from Redress, she was like, I remember her reading about her. It's that dentist who all of a sudden totally changed her life. So how did that happen?
I know, I have to laugh because yes, in a previous life, in this life, I was a dentist. And actually, it's only just recently that I've understood, as I'm getting older and I hope perhaps more insightful, I've actually started to realise that doing dentistry was really good for this career in fashion. Often people say, why do you do dentistry? Well, I did dentistry because I wanted to get a normal job. And I thought I better get a qualification, in case I really, have to, be out there saving the world through rotten teeth. So I did that for a while, worked as a dentist, but for a couple of years, and actually ultimately really hated it. But why it positively influenced who I am now is that it really triggered my deep passion about public health. Now, public health is actually quite boring. You say about people who work in public health and it's like professors and like scientists and like people with spreadsheets and looking at data. But actually, public health is so fundamentally important to the survival and the equality of human society. So I actually started to get interested in public health, and whilst I was still a dentist, I used to go off on these crazy trips around Asia. When I came to Hong Kong 11, 12 years ago, and I used to go and work with my portable dental kit. And so silly, but anyway, I used to go to prisons and slums and working with street kids and on rubbish dumps. And these places have very little access to public health, particularly in Asia, of course. These economies don't have much money, so their healthcare is absolutely useless. And you think about how much dental healthcare they have, absolutely nothing. So my point is, through my earlier life, I really went out barefoot, pulling out murderers' teeth and pulling out, homeless people's teeth with their consent. And really, it gave me the heart for these people who are basically under-recognised on our planet. And then I was a journalist, so I retrained as a journalist, and I used to write a lot about all of these issues, including the pollution that we know is rampant. It's in this room, it's all over Hong Kong, it's all over China, it's in our water, it's in our air, it's in our bodies, it's everywhere. And the fact that China obviously produces the majority of the clothes and textiles for the world, you introduced that, the fashion and textile industry is such a global polluter. So really why I set up Redress was because I understand how little was being done 10 years ago, and it was really linking up. It's only with a 10 to 15 years sort of hindsight into my life that I can see that it was the dentistry, it was the public health, it was these people in slums, it was the journalism, it was the discovery, it was investigating the problem that really led me to Redress. And ultimately, if I have to tell you why I get up every day and do what I do, because it's actually quite a painful job, because it's really, 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 really hard, and actually it's not a job, it's really a vocation, it's a way of life. It's because I'm really driven by public health, and I've only just started to realise that recently, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do with Redress, is to protect people's health. And the fashion industry is killing people. So it's about public health. That's what really drives me.
In preparation for this interview, Christina, I learned a lot about you. And I spoke to people that work with you, that know you, that were inspired by you, and there were a couple of things they said about you. So I just wanna say these. Are you nervous now? Let me get my notes. They said she's driven, contagiously passionate, genuine, inspiring, and I actually would like to include one as well, because I had the pleasure to record with you already yesterday. Humble. You're very humble for all the things you did. I can't believe how humble you are, actually. But there's one thing that I found most amazing. So I want your comment on that one. So that one comes from Hannah Lane, Communications and Sponsorship Director, and your partner in crime. You've been working together on Redress for many, many years. And she said, she is crazy, but in an amazing way. So I would like to ask, what is the craziest thing you did recently to push the development of Redress? And second question, does it need more crazy people to drive the change you want to see?
Crazy, that's a good one. I am crazy. And that's fine, because my craziness sometimes materializes into something. What are the most crazy things I've done recently? I think there's a few key crazy things. It depends what you call crazy. So I've got a crazy-ometer that I need to try and organise. But I would say perhaps two things which I think have influenced me greatly, and the work that we do. Because the thing about our jobs and the thing about our careers is you have to have an input in order to have an idea, in order to have a program, for example. And the input, I like to go out and find ideas by experiencing things, and I feel that really gives me a lot of drive. So two crazy things could be, one is I used to be a really good dumpster diver in Hong Kong. And I was at a hen party a number of years ago, and I've always wanted to go. I have a fascination with bins, as you're about to find out more. And I met this girl who was this Australian dumpster diver, and they're quite radical in Australia. She was a really pro-environmentalist. And so she said she'd take me dumpster diving. I was like, excellent. So the next night we met up. We were all in black with a head torch on. We were out. Because in Australia it's a little bit illegal. I don't know the rules there, but you know. So
Just
she,
a little bit.
just like potentially a little bit. Anyway, so we went round and she gave me the confidence on one night to how to do it. So I carried on doing it. But by the end of, I did it for about 6 months, but by the end of it I was so slick. I knew exactly what, I didn't have to put the head torch on, the black and the balaclava. I just pulled up with my car, which was a Prius, waited. I knew exactly which bins to get, and then I would just get the food out of the bin, and I would eat it, and I would take it to people's dinner parties, and they were like, thanks a lot, that's really generous. Anyway, the point about that was just to prove that there are so many resources in the bin whilst we have starving people dying of starvation, and it obviously just doesn't sit properly. And so that was one thing which actually was in the early days of Feeding Hong Kong, which some people know, and it's a bit of a secret that that was one of the inspirations for Feeding Hong Kong, which was originally under the organisation that I with Gabrielle. It's a long story. Anyway, that was one.
We get to that next time.
Yeah, that's a semi-crazy one. I think perhaps another crazy thing would be along the same lines, which were a few years ago. We'd been doing some great work with the industry, and I was really super proud of some recycling initiatives that we'd been working with Esprit and their mega supply chains. And with another company done a carbon audit and a water audit and a greenhouse gas audit, and this mass market collection was going to save the world. It was so recycled that, you know, it had a halo in its packaging. It was so amazing. That's what I thought. And that same week, I was shooting for a week with a TV crew, and we went to Hong Kong's landfill, and I spent some time there, and it really changed my life, because I've been on a lot of landfills for some time, not in Hong Kong. In Asia, of course, you have, in different countries, you have landfills that you can walk up, you know, people are living on them. Anyway, the point about the Hong Kong one was that it's very organised, but it was equally shocking to see just how much crap we throw away every single day. And I thought to myself, therefore, I'm going to just dress myself in other people's discarded clothes. So for a year, my 365 challenge, I just wore people's discarded clothes. We have enormous amounts of clothing waste out there. So I worked with recycling centres in Hong Kong, and I got my clothes out of a bin, not this landfill, of a recycling bin, for a whole year with a different outfit every day. And so basically I wore people's trash for a year, and
I looked gorgeous and fabulous at the same time.
I looked better than my old clothes, actually. It was a bit sad. So actually this was one of my favourites out of the bin. And I guess it just taught me that we need to be thinking differently about waste, and one of my favourite things about, you see, when you do these crazy things, like whatever it is that you might be interested in. Oh, another quick one is, I cycled to Vietnam because I wanted to see it with my own eyes. And it's only like, you've got to go out there and have a look at it, and to really see it. And that was another experience, like it's got to get you in the heart and get you sort of a visceral reaction to these things. And so therefore, the quote that I love, which I've used before, which is, waste is not waste until it is wasted. And that's what we need to be doing, whether you're talking about food, fuel, fashion, fibres, trims, buttons, jewellery, whatever you want. It's not waste. You know, Sarah, with, you know, the waste that drove you at Lane Crawford, or the fashion waste rather, perhaps not specifically just retail waste, it's not waste. You've got buyers. Yeah. So that's what I think is important. These crazy experiences, they translate into sense. and then you can actually talk about it.
And I understood that watching your TED Talk, I'm going to put all that in the show notes so people that haven't seen it, they can look at these talks as well that you give about how you were wearing all these clothes out of the bin. You talk about empathy at Creative Mornings. I thought that was really moving. I would recommend everyone to watch it. And I was wondering, like, I felt a lot of involvement, how you as a person were looking at the consumers and how you managed your communications with them, like from a more, like maybe in the beginning more like angry state, onto this more understanding and looking at the problem from their perspective. Is that something like looking back at this 10-year journey, is that are there these moments, is there a certain moment where you feel, that's something you don't even recognize yourself anymore, looking back at this 10 years ago, Christina?
There's a couple of things. You mentioned empathy, and so on empathy, it's actually such a fundamentally important emotion trait that we all need to have to be able to obviously think from another person's perspective, whether you're the most successful CEO or the most successful fashion designer in the world or a charity leader. It doesn't really matter what you do. If you're a product designer and you want to design a toothbrush for a disabled person, you need to be able to think from their perspective. So empathy is so important. And I think when I realized, in terms of clothing, I can say the first 5 years of Redress I was a bit arrogant and a bit stupid, really, because I didn't understand the consumer. I was like, why the hell is the industry doing like that? And you've got to think I was coming at it from a journalistic perspective, but I wasn't coming at it from a sort of empathetic, from my sense of empathy. So the point being that after about 5 years of probably being a bit I wasn't really hitting the target because I didn't understand the target. And it was really through my bin experience of wearing other people's thrown away clothes, and every day I would have a different outfit, which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but I wanted to prove that you could go from the ballroom to the ski slopes to, the beach holiday to, boring weekend at home, whatever, and you can look great. And it was through doing that, and I had different stylists, and sometimes I thought they were taking the piss out of me, actually, because I was like, are you seriously want me to wear that? And I thought, okay, whatever, let's just wear it. There were days that someone had me in some basketball outfit. It was just so bad. I was like in Queens Road Central working and going to meetings like with a baseball cap on and these baggy butts. So I had some really crazy ones. But the point of the experience and how it relates to empathy was that I fell in love with fashion. I discovered that it's really seriously good fun, and that is why we need to fight for it. And I understand now why women and men and children love clothes throughout history, and forever they're going to love clothes. And so fashion will continue to come out in different colours, different shapes. It's all going to happen. And therefore my empathy was spot on, and now I want to try and make that process more sustainable rather than bashing the industry and consumers on the head saying, stop doing that. It's just not going to work. We have to work within it and make it better.
And of course, in the last couple of years, there has also been the Eco-Chic Design Award that was born out of the Redress journey, and is such a big part of your, I guess, daily life now. I guess I would imagine once, because now you're soon announcing the semi-finalists in the coming week, but I imagine you are working towards September when the big show will happen, and then the preparations for the next one will start right away, right? So we will all find out more about these designers. But how was that first year? Can you tell us about the beginning of the Eco-Chic Design Award?
Yeah, well, I think so. The Eco-Chic Design Award is our educational, sustainable fashion design competition that really ultimately is helping to change the next gen of designers, which ultimately will definitely change the future of fashion, which you're going to see in frontline fashion. So rewind to the first cycle. Well, that was just Eco-Chic Design Award Hong Kong only. Gosh, it just seems like a long time ago. I'm trying to think of something that's really insightful about it. Yeah, I could say this. I think rather than just specifically pinpointing that first cycle, I'd rather just say the differences between now and then, and that's fundamentally, the first cycle was 2010-11. And we were thinking, do these designers care about it? And we were knocking on the university doors, saying, can we come in and lecture? And they were, yes, you can come in. And we weren't really sure. On the very, very, very first grand final on the runway, I was really ballsy and I said, you know, we're going to change a generation of designers. And I was thinking, oh, I hope that's true. But I was trying to be really positive. So fast forward to now, I know it's true. It's absolutely, like, we're not knocking on the doors of the unis. The unis are opening them saying, could you please come in, send us your educational materials. We want to be part of this. We have now 90 university partners around the world, including Parsons and Central St. Martin's and many big ones in India and in China and Hong Kong, of course. So the difference from 2011 to now, and it's not because of us, it's because of the world's changing. The difference is that there are now hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of designers, unis, all over the world that want to take part. For example, from just 2011, when we only accepted Hong Kong applications, to the cycle that we just closed, we had 46 different countries apply just now.
And the US for the first time.
And the US, yeah, the US is hot. Really? Loads of applications. Yeah, we were quite surprised about that. And you know, we've got countries like the typical fashion centres where you've got the big universities. We've got, obviously, with 46 countries, I'm not going to spell them all out, but the interesting ones for me are Azerbaijan, Serbia, Israel. Where's Mother? Where's Jill? She's my...
Well, I was going to say Azerbaijan.
I got it, Azerbaijan. Yeah, we had Kazakhstan last cycle. I'm not sure if they're in. The point is, why I love these off-grid fashion countries is because it shows that the millennials, the young next gen, have changed. So I'm always looking, when the applications come in, I'm looking for like what countries that I haven't heard of, you know? Yeah.
And that brings me to the impact question, of course, something I always demand. I always demand a question, not a question, an answer from my guests. You can ask me a question as well, but maybe later. When I was talking to Hannah, she also said, are we making an impact? This is something that keeps you up at night. This is something you are asking yourself. How do you measure it? Do you measure it, or how do you feel like, yeah, I'm happy with what I do? This actually makes an impact.
It's desperately difficult because I know that we're growing. I know that we are making an impact because I see eyeballs, numbers, reach, partners, applications. I see all of it in terms of the numbers that Google tells us. So that feels like the most concrete impact that I can do. Obviously, the problem with education, it doesn't matter if you're educating, you know, women's issues, health, whatever, is that you can educate, but it takes a long time to actually to measure an impact. So, for example, I can't say, yes, if you go out there to landfill, thanks to all the good work of Redress, there's less textile waste in there, and I can't say that there's less water pollution in China. So unfortunately, we can only go by the numbers that we're reaching. It's very difficult to therefore take it to the next level of how much waste and how much environmental benefits we're driving. We would need a very, very big consultancy firm to pro bono do that for us, and we're very open for that.
Yes, we're going to ask for that. So whoever is listening here, we're going to look into that. Yes, and now, of course, looking at the time, because of course we want to see the documentary as well. Before we start, I want to, of course I already saw it. You mentioned you've seen it so many times, and there's always something new you find in the documentary. But what I felt was so moving when we were talking yesterday was when you said, these designers are your extended family, and you're so excited about meeting the new finalists. Can you tell us a little bit about, without giving anything away, but about the designers that we're going to see about? What should the list, how would you introduce this documentary now to our guests?
I'll tell you why we made it, and I think that introduces us more. Year on year on year, we meet these incredible designers, and they have the heart, the talent, the push, they want to do it. And that's why we wanted to make the documentary, which is to show their journey, so that you can see what they're going through and how committed they are to the cause. And I suppose when you're watching it, you have to think that these are just 10. There are thousands more out there that are also talented, but we're just telling their story of 10, and there's more and more and more. So it's like this army of young designers who are demanding change. They are young, they're fresh grads. So they're in some ways quite idealistic at that age anyway, but we strongly believe that that is really, really the future of the fashion industry. So as you're watching it, when you hear them say X, Y, and Z, you have to think there's another 20 or 30 or 40 who would have said exactly the same thing. And also in terms of the extended family, I'm really excited that we're going to find these 10 people out for our next finals, because they are our extended family, but it's through their actions that we prove our point. So it's a very symbiotic relationship. When we find them, we hold on to them because we're doing it together. We're providing them the platform, but they're providing us with the message to get out there. So it's a symbiotic, very passionate sort of relationship with all of these 10 from around the world, and we always become friends. It's wonderful, yeah.
And there's an even more exciting thing growing out of this with your BYT, social impact business. But this will be the teaser for after the documentary. So we can while we talk, we can move so that yes, we are very good here. We can move down. I'm gonna stay around with Christina while the screen comes down yes? Just take a risk and go for it.
Well, for any designers thinking of applying to next year, I'd say absolutely do it, but beware, because the quality and the competition is getting really, really high. So I think we've really seriously proved tonight that, we can do more and do better with the fashion industry. When it comes to sustainable fashion, you do not have to compromise on style.
How much work was it to put this together? Was it a lot of, were you regretting? It's a beautiful production. I mean, first of all, congratulations. It looks like a lot of work. Yes. And I can imagine at some point you were like, why are we doing this?
You know what, of course, it's ball-breaking. But the good news is, I think, that with our partners at Mustard who produced it for us, Lindsay Robertson particularly is a friend of mine, and she went beyond the call of human duty to make that thing happen for us. So, and I think that's really the only reason we survive at Redress is because we have friends, and I mean friends in the very big sense. So it was incredibly hard work, but it was also much on her side and her team that really went, as I said, they went beyond where they should have gone to.
I am sure by now you feel incredibly inspired by Christina, but wait for it. This will get even more intriguing. Like for every nonprofit, it is challenging looking at how to scale operations and how to get funding. In this next bit, Christina shares another bold plan to implement a sophisticated funding model for Redress to grow their impact. Back then, when we recorded in spring 2017, we are talking about BYT. In the meantime, BYT has rebranded to the R Collective, the social impact upcycled fashion brand that's born out of Redress. Here are Christina's thoughts on catalyzing the circular fashion revolution. And you also get to hear what the audience wanted to learn from Christina as we opened the floor for questions.
You all think of your questions. We're going to come around and collect the questions. But the teaser I gave, BYT, what is that all about? So we're so excited, or I'm super excited about it.
Okay, so BYT, it's another baby that we've given birth to at Redress. So after 10 years of talking about fashion can be a force for good, and we've always believed that sustainable fashion can be profitable, it can be design driven, it can be desirable, and it can be good for people who make it, people who wear it, and for the environment, or perhaps less bad for the environment. And so, last year, we did what I think is kind of another crazy thing, and that is we've started a social impact business, which is an upcycled, socially sustainable fashion brand called BYT. Now it's a separate legal entity to Redress the charity, and basically I'm a co-founder of BYT, and we have a separate team on BYT, but what we're out to do is we're ridiculously audacious. We want to prove that fashion can be a force for good, and I think, I sort of hear myself banging on about it for 10 years, and then I hear myself thinking, well, fashion and textile industry is the second biggest economic trade out there, and as I said, it's the 5th biggest GDP. And at the same time, Redress as a charity is struggling like crazy, trying to fundraise for our environmental NGO. And so we thought, a really sophisticated funding model out there, if we can crack it, is to have a for-profit social impact business that's out there selling these beautiful, upcycled, socially sustainable clothes, making money, and giving money back to Redress. And it's this ecosystem of using a for-profit, non-profit model that we're going to punch through, and we have to do it because we can't fundraise enough quicker. Fundraising for Redress is more than a full-time job, and we just can't survive for 20, 30, 40, 50 years the way we're going. So with that in mind, BYT is another very bold, audacious plan that we're going to do, and we're doing it now. Yeah.
And it will launch in September, right?
Yes. So BYT believes in emerging fashion designers, as you can see. So we cherry-picked our favourites, and we have taken them into BYT, and they're designing this upcycle collection. We're going to reveal it to the world on the 7th of September, and it's going to be, I hate this word see now, buy now, but it is see now, buy now, and it's upcycled, obviously I've said that, and it will be available to buy on bytlife.com, on our own e-com platform, and at Lane Crawford.
Amazing. So, but now I'm really gonna stop, huh? You're like, is she ever gonna stop talking? Who wants to raise the first question?
Hi, my name's Laura. I'm a one-year exchange student from Polytechnic University, so I'd like to formally say I'm one of the entrants for this year's Eco Chic competition. Yet to be said if I'm one of the semi-finalists. Cross my fingers. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being able to give young designers the opportunity to be able to get our names out there in the industry where it's so competitive, especially in a new platform like this. And so my question for you is, what is your advice for upcoming designers on how to involve sustainability into their designs?
I think it's the answer to that is the same as a consumer, which is to put sustainability into your mind in every kind of action that you're thinking. So, the immediate thing when you're a fashion designer is thinking, okay, I'm a fashion designer, I need to be sustainable, so I'm going to source a sustainable material. Tick, I am sustainable. It's really so much more than that. As you know, it's really thinking about the entire life cycle of a product. So it's not just thinking about a low impact fabric, which could be upcycled, it could be organic, it could be these sustainable raw materials. It's also really thinking about this gets a bit boring, sorry everyone, but it's about thinking about the supply chain, the logistics, the shipping, where are you going to be selling, what's the price point that you're selling at, to who? Can the garment be worn for a long time, or is it going to fall apart after one wash? If the garment can be worn for a long time, can it be styled in different ways? And ultimately, let's just say the hem breaks, have you given enough seam allowance that this woman or man can have it altered and repaired? And that ultimately what you need to be thinking about is that your garment is going to stay in the fashion loop for a very, 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 very long time, and that it won't end up in landfill. If I took you to these bins, your heart would break. And I have taken lots of designers to the bins, and their heart break because they put so much love, passion into every little detail of the hem and the stitch and the button, and then some consumer just chucks it away. It's destroying. So my answer to you, it's not just one tip, it's about here, and it's really about creating a product that will stay in the fashion loop for as long as humanly possible. And if there was one nugget of advice of how you could do that, it would be to make it really gorgeous and really durable. Yeah.
Who's next? Don't be shy. Here we go, Ellie.
First of all, thank you very much. Very interesting. You talked a lot about sort of designers themselves, how they can upcycle and recycle clothing. But from a consumer perspective, I think something that personally I struggle with is that how to be creative myself. So if it's a piece of clothing that I'm bored with, I don't know what to do with, is there any resources out there to really sort of inspire me to be more creative?
Yeah. I mean, this is essentially it's a creative stroke styling question, I suppose. There is this magic statistic, I don't know who made it up, therefore I don't know if it's true, but there's this 80-20 rule, and it's a famous 80-20 rule, but they say in generally that we wear 20% of our wardrobe for 80% of the time, which means that just forget the designers for a moment, we're all sitting on 80% of our money and resources that are locked away collecting dust in our wardrobe. And I know Cheryl's definitely nodding at this because she's very passionate about this one. So the trick is to unlock the 80%. You've already spent a lot of money on it, and you're going to probably look pretty good in it. So let's get it out. So the first step to get it out is actually to just have a little bit of fun and a bit of confidence with styling. I'm not a stylist at all. I mean, Cheryl can answer. Do you want to answer the question? Yeah, she's the pro at this. You can have this one.
I think in the work that I do with so many I hate to use the word normal women, but like I work with real women to reassess their wardrobes. And one of the, 80-20 is the given. I suppose in my experience it's probably more like 70-30. But the truth is, women have amazing clothes and they just need a little bit of inspiration. And it can either come from a professional source like me, or it can come from Pinterest, it can come from YouTube, it can come from magazines. But it's about taking your clothes and thinking about like, what is it you love about them, and then how can you make them last not just longer but all through the year. One of the things I kind of write about is taking pieces and saying, in your head this is a summer piece, in your head this is a workwear piece, in your head this is a piece that's a special occasion piece. Well, it's about actually thinking about that clothes and saying, how can it transcend that one box that you've put it in, and that's how you really start to maximize the cost per wear of your clothes.
I'm going to give you a couple of quick practical tips on that. So the first thing, someone in my office right now is doing this thing. So this is something to make you think differently about clothes. She's doing this challenge called the 13-31 challenge. And basically she's just picked 3 items, separate items, for 31 days. So obviously I've got 3 items. I don't think the shoes count, and the underwear luckily doesn't count too. So you got 3. So the point is, you've got to mix and match and find these 13 key pieces that you're going to wear for 31 days. And what you will do is you'll end up changing the way that you dress, because you've got to, otherwise you're going to look the same every single day. She looks really great, and I haven't really noticed that she's looking the same every day. She looks really cool, actually. That would be one thing. And the second thing about this usage, I'll give you one quick tip. Tailor, right? You've got to have a tailor, and I can see that you've got something going there too. So, just this week actually, I've got some clothes that actually are my own, pre my dump days, and I had an Alexander McQueen evening dress, which is quite sort of short, and I've grown up in a few years, and I've grown up and I've grown up, and so this thing basically makes me look like a bit of a tart because it's a bit short. So I took it in yesterday, and it's Alexander McQueen, so I can't remember how much I spent on it, but quite a lot. And I just had it cut from here to here, so now it's a tunic, and it looks great. So, plus, I took in a Stella McCartney dress. My husband bought me a size 42 Stella McCartney dress pre my bin days. He's always buying me nice clothes. I think he's trying to say something, And it was actually, I was pregnant, and it was a big dress. So I've just taken it in yesterday, and I'm going to start wearing it again. So again, think differently about what's in there. And also, my number one tip for consumers is you have to know where a tailor is. If you don't know where a tailor is, you're not going to get the most out of your wardrobe. And that is, I think, one really practical bit of advice that I'll give. Yeah.
Hello. So if we're not taking it in, because we may have expanded our wardrobe, or out of our wardrobe, where do we take our old clothes to? Where's the best guaranteed place that it will go through that recycling process?
Well, okay, so the question is really around clothes that you don't want anymore, whether you've grown out of them, grown out, whatever. So the thing is, the number one easy answer is obviously it's never going to go into the landfill. In Hong Kong, 306 tons go into landfill every day. So obviously it's not going in the bin, number one. But number two, if you're trying to be quite clever about this, what you are trying to do is to keep the garment in the fashion loop for as long as possible. You don't really want to put it in a recycling bin yet, if you're trying to be uber VIP on how you do it. So for example, if it's a really good quality dress, like a designer dress, you could sell it, or you could swap it with a friend, or you could donate it to charities who are doing clothing drives. We do them, for example. Ultimately, what you're trying to do with a good quality product is keep it at the product level. You don't want it to be going down into the recycling world. So if it's great quality, I would swap. Because if it's great quality, you probably spent quite a bit of money on it, so I would say swap. Anyway, coming down, let's just say you've got some really sort of wrecked t-shirts that are kind of revolting. Then you could just, sorry, not you in particular, but if there are some textiles basically that are pretty damaged, And all types of clothes. You can put them in the charity containers that are throughout Hong Kong. So there are, but from wanting to get rid of something to putting it into its final rest place, there are so many options. So sell it, swap it, donate it to a charity, or ultimately you can put it in the recycling containers. Yeah.
We have our youngest participant today.
I'd just like to ask for people as a consumer, how can we get hold of sustainable clothes? And if we can't, then when can we?
I think you're going to take over the world one day, I think. Well, it's possible to buy more sustainably produced clothes. You do have to do a bit of legwork online and legwork on the streets. There are, the big global brands are making eco collections and recycle collections. So, if you gave me $500, and I'm really terrible at shopping, but I know I could go out there and buy some nice things that are recycled or fair trade in Hong Kong, organic. It would take me some time to do it. You could of course buy online, because a lot of the fashion industry has changed so much, so many new emerging brands or mid-market brands, and the e-com platform has allowed us to shop from wherever we want in the world. So I would say of course go online. For me, my sort of nirvana of sustainable fashion shopping, I think, goes without saying. It's using second-hand clothes or upcycled materials or recycled. I'm really not a fan of using virgin resources for clothes, because I know that there are so many resources out there. So, and the second part of your question was, when are we going to get more? We're going to get more when people start pushing the agenda. People like you go and you tell more of your friends, and all of us, whether you're your age or much older, need to be making much more of a noise to our brands. They need to be shaking with nerves about how the consumer trends are changing, and consumer trends are changing so much. I mean, the recent research that's widely reported is that 65% of consumers in emerging markets will actively seek out sustainable fashion, compared with 32% in developed economies. And there's loads of research to suggest that. Things like Fashion Revolution, which is this big global movement to demand transparency for how our clothes are made. Look, the lights are on. We get it now, and brands know that we get it, and we need to actually make much more of a big impact on that, because we can often feel like, I'm just so sort of me, and I can't do anything, and it's absolute rubbish, because the fashion industry is completely dependent on us. In the True Cost documentary, Stella McCartney says something great. I can't say it as well as she did, but her point was, if you don't like it, don't buy it, and push for something else, because then the industry will react. Now, I'm really, really lucky, because I've climbed my way into the boardroom of some of these big brands, and I know that they take it very, very seriously what's going on social media. They listen, they are. So it's like a chicken and egg. I hate it. People bang on all the time, the brands say the consumers don't want it, and the consumers say, well, the brands don't give it to us. And I don't actually believe it's true. I think consumers want it. I think brands are trying to do it. And I think that the biggest way to make the change is for consumers to become active fashion citizens. We've got to stop being this ugly consumer. And Ursula de Castro is a friend, and she speaks Italian, so she says it better than I'm about to do it. Well, it's consume in Latin is consumere. That's probably not said right, but it means to destroy through use. And if that's really all we are, these consumers destroying everything in our path, that's not so exciting. So I feel like we need to be fashion citizens, enjoying clothes and being active in driving good, nice supply chains, that we know that people are not being obviously abused, but so we should I use the word fashion consumer a lot because it's kind of part of our everyday language, but we need to think of ourselves as fashion citizens.
Yes, definitely. And while you think of your next question, I'm just gonna walk off the stage, because we have prepared the printouts Who Made My Clothes, and you probably haven't seen yet because there was so much going on. So we invite you all to do that today. If you like, just take a picture of yourself and show your label. You might not be able to undress, but you can tag them. I saw your staff doing that as well. So we all invite you to do that today, and just ask, and they will get the notifications. And especially this week, of course, there's a lot of trending fashion revolution. So please do join. I'll bring it up on stage now. Actually, I want to keep this one. Yes.
Okay. Should I ask my question now? Yeah. Hi, Christina. Thank you. I'm very excited to hear about your new project. But I have a question because it seems like often everything comes down to the consumer and the corporations. What about the government? What about government policies? What about government regulation? There's also a lot of talk about resource-based economies. So I'm interested to know what you think. Do you work with the government, and how could we, collaborate between corporations and governments?
Yeah, that's a really big question. I can only answer it in the few snippets of my perspective on that. So we don't explicitly work with the government. Create Hong Kong, which is the part of the government here, is a major sponsor of the Eco-Chic Design Award, but it's not like we're advocating or lobbying on policy, for example. When it comes to the government, of course, it's absolutely fundamental, regardless of which country you're talking about, that there is engagement on this. Now, if I could talk about the China government, I'm not an expert on China government policies, but the top line is that over the years, obviously, we've seen China's pollution become so critical that it's actually causing huge human suffering, and the environmental cost of actually cleaning up the cost of cleaning up the pollution is significant. And when it's so significant that you can look at the loss of productivity from sickness and ill health and the lack of clean resources. And when a government, and this is just in general, identifies that they're actually spending more money cleaning up an industry than they are, for example, on exporting and driving exportation tax, they have to do something about it. And what has been very interesting over the last number of years is the China government has changed their environmental policy. So much so, they're pushing the circular economy across, textile, food, pulp, all these industries, different industries that are creating a huge amount of impact. Now, for me, what's so exciting about that, and for 25 years, the Chinese government did not update their environmental law. And I think from 2004 it was changed, and it came into effect from, I think, January 2016. So within this new law, they're pushing the circular economy to clean things up. Now, what does that do on a practical level? Well, of course, number one, it says industry has to change. So that in itself is a massive draw. Because industry has to change. They're going to be fined if they're pumping out polluted water. The textile companies are being fined. They're being encouraged to shut down. They're actually being encouraged to move out of China even. So when governments, and forget the China government, but just when governments in general obviously signal change, it creates a quicker change that is taken across the for-profit commercial world. So these things do go hand in hand. It's just very, very complicated when it comes to the fashion and textile industry, because a lot of the economy is based on the jobs that are created through the fashion and textile industry. And many governments, and particularly in Cambodia, for example, the governments want to keep their minimum wage low to draw in the investment from the companies to produce there, in order that they can pay people in developing countries and get the export tax. So developing world governments are in a difficult position because they want to entice trade and keep it cheap. And as we know, China's minimum wage is about 5 times greater than the minimum wage in Bangladesh. Surprise, surprise, where's all the cheap clothes made? In Bangladesh. China doesn't produce really, 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 really cheap clothes anymore because it's too expensive. So it's, I don't know how to answer any more than that, just to say how complicated this is. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I have a surprise for you, because not for you, I did ask many of your questions before we even went up on stage. So there are a couple more questions that you answer about supply chains. We had a question from She Collective. We had so many questions we were going through. Hard to think of it now. But you will hear all the answers in an upcoming episode of #Impact Podcast. And now I would actually like to invite Sarah and Jody up on stage again because there are surprises for our participants here today. There are a couple of prizes for you to win. Have you seen the gorgeous Dress with Sense publication yet? Redress made this beautiful publication where all these questions are actually also answered. What can we do as consumers? How can we turn our closet into a more conscious closet, right? And maybe you can tell us a bit about the Dress with Sense that they can win now?
Yeah. Okay, so because I'd spent so long in the bin salvaging clothes and bringing clothes back into the loop, from cleaning them, repairing them, DIYing them, restyling them, our team at Redress, myself and 2 other colleagues, wrote a book, which was another ball-breaking experience, and I don't even have testicles, but I think it was really tough. So we wrote this book, Dress with Sense, and it is a practical guide to a conscious closet. Ultimately, what this book would have done for every person that had chucked their clothes away, this book will help you to keep them. So it's in 4 chapters: buy, wear, care and dispose, and it's full of tips. It's kind of like a recipe book for having a more conscious closet, and the good news is you don't need to be hardcore eco to do this. You just need to be quite sensible. It's all good tips, and ultimately we're kind of trying to save your money and help you with your style. So it's written for us normal people. Yeah.
And one lucky person can win it now, but you actually brought some more. So they are over there, and the best way to buy this book is actually from Redress, I learned. Because that way, because I made the mistake. I went to the bookstore. That was not the smart way to do it. The smart way to do it is to actually get in touch with you guys, buy from you directly, and then the biggest contribution will be going to Redress.
Yes, we desperately need money, so thank you so much. And yeah, if you want to buy the book, we're not only going to transform you, but you're going to have to give us some money, which would be really generous of you. So Jill is my counterpart, and she's over there, if you wish to buy a book.
Yes. Okay, so should we just should we ask Hillary to do it? Hillary, do you want to do it? Okay. Okay, then there you go.
No, because I might be biased. I might have put all of my cards in there.
Guinness Town Murphy has won the Dress with Sense book. Yay! And actually, you will be on stage later as well. Yeah. That will be a surprise. Yes, this was for you. Then we have, of course, Sarah from Hula has something really exciting for you guys as well.
It isn't part of the lottery, but I have all of these vouchers here. So if anybody wants a $200 voucher to shop on Hula, then come and see me afterwards. That's all.
Yes. Of course, then there will be the donations to Givo that we really need to encourage you to do.
Yes.
Before you leave.
So similar, as Christina said, you don't have to be super hardcore eco to be participant in the sustainable clothing or just sustainability in general. You don't have to be a hardcore person who donates. What we encourage with Givo is that every small amount matters, and what we do is with technology, we actually partner with organizations such as Stripe. So if you haven't heard of them, they're kind of like PayPal, and they give us great discounts for partners with charities, and Givo doesn't take a cut at all. So I don't know if you know this, but sometimes with crowdfunding sites, they take a huge cut of what you donate to charities. But what we want to do is kind of remove that kind of middleman and make it accessible through your phone. So if you haven't already, do download Givo, do it here, do it at home, and donate to Redress, because you can be the lifeblood of NGOs. Fundraising is a constant struggle, so every little bit does count, and even better if you pledge for the long run.
Yes. And then there is another gorgeous prize. Lula, the Eaton House has prepared something really nice.
Drinks on the house for 2 winners.
I want to win that.
Sophie Menstorp-Poyi.
Sophie! Yay! Sophie's lucky. Yesterday, 10 by 10, another amazing fundraising event that you will hear about in Hashtag Impact Podcast as well. Sophie was also a lucky winner. Sophie, how do you do this? And how do you do it?
I go to all the charities and just win the prizes.
So thank you so much. And now, when we're all standing together here so much, first of all, I have to thank a lot of people that were involved in this event today. First of all, of course, Christina, you took the time, my guinea pig, so to say, because this was the very first ever recording in front of an audience. Usually in my podcasts, there are not people staring at us while we're talking, so you can go check that out, how it usually sounds. But this was a really pleasant experience, and I hope we can do more of these kind of events in the future. So thank you. Thank you to Gibo and Sarah, who have been featured on #Impact Podcast before, so you will get all the information. Don't worry, you don't have to write it down now, but you will hear more from Gibo in episode 7. We have episode 7 here. I should have prepared numbers actually. We have episode 14 here, hula and the amazing things to do when it comes to fall in love with pre-loved.
Yes, that's right.
Pre-loved clothes. So we have episode 16. You already have a number as well. So you can go then and hear what you heard today again, plus the question that you didn't hear answered yet. And then we have some more people here in the audience that are actually already featured on #Impact Podcast. Are you excited to see their faces? Yes. We have Sue to me, who is, come up to us. So this is Sue to me. She is the executive director. Did I say that right now?
You're right.
Hands on Hong Kong.
That's right.
And Sue is the accidental first guest of #Impact Podcast. And you,
The guinea pig.
you are also a guinea pig. Another guinea pig right there.
Right.
Yes. So you can hear Hands on Hong Kong story in episode 1. We have Guinness. We have Guinness in your founder is Sean Seibler, Clean the World, recycling soap to
For
reduce
hotels,
waste
another-
as well. Not just reduce. We have reduce waste, textile reduce waste,
From the hotel industry.
hotel industry, episode 10. Hands on Hong Kong is connecting volunteers to all these amazing organizations. Who else? Is anyone here? Did I forget? Belinda, come up. We have Belinda Poole. She is featured in episode 12. Another volunteer matchmaker right there. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, and I interviewed Sarah and you, actually together with this co-host. Marlene, come up, now you have to do it. Marlene Hofer is featured in episode 12 as my co-host in crime. Yes, we have to say thanks to Lula from Eaton House. You want to come up again? Yes, thank you for having us. Is anyone of the guests missing? We have an upcoming guest, Ines. Upcoming guest of #Impact Podcast, female entrepreneurship. There are a lot of women in here today, so female empowerment. And then, of course, I want to say huge thanks. Celia, come up. Celia Berkhoop from Just Campania is, what should I call you? One of my best friends and volunteer for #Impact Podcast, partner in crime. And Christina, she was the reason why I found out about Redress, because she connected me to Sarah, who then told me about Redress and Christina. So it's all a circle. And I have to say thanks to the wonderful friends here that all came, all the people interested. Peter, thank you for your support. Jumpstart Magazine for coming. Did I forget to mention anyone? Thank you all. There will be hopefully many more recordings like this. And thank you all. I think we made it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to check out Redress at redress.com.hk and get in touch with Christina and her team if you feel inspired by her story. I'm sure you do. And while you're at it, actually make sure to share it with others as well. If you want to share your story of impact with us, we want to hear from you. How are you tackling the sustainable development goals in your community? Head over to #impact.com/story to find out how you can send in your audio story and feature on our upcoming season 5. There you will also find a helpful storytelling guide to make your story shine. Thank you so much for making an impact by listening to our episodes. Talk to you soon. Bye.